Welcome everyone. In the last session we have discussed about the concept of International Accounting Standards Board and how it has been created. Now what is the main activity under International Accounting Standards Board? So let us discuss about the role and functions of IASB in developing IFRS. Role and functions of IASB in developing IFRS. We have mentioned that what is meant by IASB, International Accounting Standards Board, and the standards set and published by International Accounting Standards Board is known as IFRS. So how the IASB has contributed towards IFRS? Under the IFRS Foundation Constitution, the IASB has complete responsibility for all technical matters of the IFRS foundations, including different concepts. And one of the major role played by IASB is it acts as a mediator between two accounting philosophies, namely the British American and the European continental model. So what is this mediator between two accounting philosophies? So why there is a need for a mediator? So before that we need to discuss some situation that has been prevailing in that period. The official role of an International Accounting Standard Board is to develop worldwide accepting standards and to promote its global use and acceptance. Earlier, the IASB was known as International Accounting Standard Committee. It was not very successful. That is why it was dissolved and changed into IASB. It was not a successful, even though it has been working from 1973 to 2000. The ultimate result was not much successful. So, since it was not very successful and the standards were not globally accepted, that is the main issue. Even though they were issuing various standards, it was not globally accepted. Therefore, in 1990, it undertook a cooperative effort with the International Organization of Securities Commission, otherwise known as IOSCO, to develop a core of set of standards which would be accepted for worldwide listing. It began operation from 1973 and until 1990 only they realized that their standards were not globally accepted. That is why they had joined hands with IOSCO, International Organization of Securities Commission. And by the end of 1990, the International Accounting Standards, otherwise known as IAS, reorganized its structure and the process of developing accounting standards. That is how it was dissolved into a new name, that is International Accounting Standards Board. So don't get confused with the terms IASB and IASC. IASC, otherwise known as International Accounting Standards Committee. It was an older name. They dissolved and now it is known as International Accounting Standards Board. That's very simple concept. So the IASB has the role of a mediator between the two accounting philosophies, because there were two accounting systems that were prevailing in the world. One is the British American, another is the European continental system. And why it is like that? Because IASB focused on cooperation with national standard setters and a high involvement of interested persons and organizations when IFRS developed. That is why IFRS was successful when compared to the standards issued by IASC. So it acts as a mediator in bringing together a British American system and the European continental model. Both accounting worlds want to prevent a dominance over the other side, and therefore the IASB should find solutions and compromises which satisfy both accounting sides. However, it is to be stated that IASB is highly influenced by Anglo-American side, otherwise known as British American side. The accounting system that prevailing all over the world is actually a British American model type. even though these two models were joined together. Ultimately, the concept is the accounting practices that is followed all over the world is almost like the British American concept. The IASB has achieved the important accomplishment in the comparability of the financial statement. That is the main purpose of unifying these standards, because we need to prepare a financial statement that will be almost similar whatever the nature of the company or whatever the country of the origin of the company. It has to be similar. The main issue with regard to bringing together all these systems is the attitude of the United States. The United States were not cooperating to be a part of a unified accounting standard concept. But anyway, after a long period of times and issues regarding that, the American system also tried to converge with the international financial reporting standards. And many other international bodies also is converging with the IFRS concept that was introduced by IASB. So ultimately we can say IASB played a very important role in developing the international financial reporting standards. Not only developing international financial reporting standards, and it played a very vital role in bringing together various different systems that were working in different parts of the world. The IFRS system or standards issued by IASB. IASB played a very important role in bringing together different accounting models practiced in different parts of the world. So IASB actually is of great importance in the accounting point of view. So apart from that, the IASB also play a very important role in the developing of IFRS. Under IFRS Foundation Constitution, the IASB has complete responsibility for all technical matters of the IFRS Foundation, such as creating and developing global accounting standards. We all know, because the main purpose of IASB is to issue and implement international standards. So the primary purpose of the IASB is to create and develop a single set of high quality, understandable, enforceable and globally acceptable international financial reporting standards. Such standards help to give transparent and comparable information in financial statements as well as in other financial reports. That is one important role played by IASB. Next is enforcement of standards. Not only they create standards, they will take necessary steps to enforce those standards, to bring those standards into application. That is the meaning. The accounting standards fixed by IASB should be made enforceable. The IASB has the power to enforce the companies to comply with the accounting standards. Convergence of accounting standards. It is a role of the International Accounting Standards Board, otherwise known as IASB, to bring about convergence of national accounting standards and IFRS to high quality, understandable and enforceable accounting standards. All these activities is a part of implementing a unified system. That is the main purpose. Promoting adoption of IFRS. The IASB played a vital role of promoting and facilitating adoption of IFRS through convergence of national accounting standards and IFRS. IASB is trying very hard to bring together all the standards working in different or implemented in different part of the countries or different part of the world, and IASB is trying to unify all these standards to a single one, that is known as IFRS. Research on enterprises. The IASB conduct in-depth study and research on specific matters in connection with special issues of the companies, especially on small and medium-sized enterprises. It helps small and medium-sized enterprises also to follow IFRS in their financial reporting system. IASB will help not only the large and multinational concern, but it also studies the conditions and situations that prevail in a small and medium type companies. and it will provide suggestions regarding how to how to prepare the statements, how to follow the standards. Then only they can bring together all these parties together, and IASB play that role very well. Next one, assuring quality in the financial reporting. It is a duty of the IASB to assure quality reporting on a global screen in the financial reporting of corporations. It is made sure by standardized training at the international level. They not only IASB not only implement standards or enforce standards, but it also give study classes and other types of training to various corporations and various accounting firms or various parties or professionals that is working in different part of the world. IASB will provide training, means how the standard has to be followed, how their statement has to be prepared as per the standard, like that. Assisting the auditors. We all know who is known as auditor. Auditor is the one who audits the accounts of a company, and auditor is of a great important character in the accounting field. IASB assists the auditor in providing opinions relating to financial statement following the guidelines issued by IASB through IFRS, because auditors are the persons who have to make sure whether the companies are following and preparing the statements as per the standards. What standards? Standards issued by the IASB. That standards is known as IFRS. So IASB help the auditors in identifying and understanding various standards. Assisting interested parties. IASB not only directly deals with companies, corporations or accounting firms, but it also helps in assisting all the interested parties in the field of accounting. IASB assists the users of financial statements such as investors, creditors, suppliers, employees, all the internal and external users of accounting. IASB help all the users in interpreting the information contained in the financial statement prepared in the compliance with IFRS. The IASB will assist them in understanding how those statements of a certain company is prepared if they are following IFRS. Developing technical agenda. That means the IASB is vested with the duty of developing and pursuing its technical agenda, subject to certain consultation requirements with the trustees and the public. Technical agenda means what is the procedures that has to be followed with regard to implementation of standards, and IASB helps in assisting and maintaining a technical agenda that is to be operated in the field of accounting or in the field of preparation of financial statements. Exposure draft. We have mentioned about this aspect during the theoretical aspect discussion of procedures followed by IASB or Accounting Standards Board. IASB takes the active role of preparing and issuing IFRS and exposure drafts following the due process stipulated in the Constitution. Because before implementing or finalizing the standards, certain draft regarding the standard will be prepared. That is known as exposure draft, and it will be issued to various professionals, various interested parties, various independent bodies, and they will study those draft. Actually, draft means a prior preparation of a standard. That is known as draft. Before finalizing and publishing a standard, it is known as draft. Once this draft is studied by everyone relating to this field, if it is correct, then it will be published. Once it is published, it is known as standard. Before publication, it is known as exposure draft. And finally, approval of interpretations. Interpretation is another important aspect in the analysis of financial statement. You will learn about that area in the higher studies, mainly in the coming semesters. Interpretation means if you have gone through the financial statement of a company, what did you understand from that statement? You might understand that the company has earned this much profit, or the position of the company is safe, like that. That is known as interpretation, means analyzing and understanding the situation of a business by going through the financial statements. That is known as interpretation. And the interpretations of the IFRS made by IFRS Interpretations Committee should be accepted and approved, and it is done by IASB. IASB is the one who is going to approve the interpretation done by the interpretation committee. There is a committee that will go through all these statements and interpret the results. So these are the main roles or activities that are done by IASB from their point of view of responsibilities. Next we are going to learn is components of IFRS. So I believe you know what is meant by IFRS. These are known as standards. Actually IFRS means a certain set of standards. Who issues IFRS? IASB. So that is the concept. Anyway, IFRS is known as International Financial Reporting Standards, and within IFRS there are sub-standards. Sub-standards means there are sub-categories. That is the meaning. So the main components of IFRS are: first one, IFR itself, that is known as International Financial Reporting Standards. Let us go through some of the IFRS standards that is prevailing in the world. See, these are the various international financial reporting standards. Actually, under International Financial Reporting Standards, there are 4 types of components. Again, under IFR itself, there is one first category is IFRS, International Financial Reporting Standards. So don't get confused. There is one heading that is known as IFRS. Under IFRS, there are 4 components, and first component is IFRS itself. So, International Financial Reporting Standards, there are right now 17 IFRS standards. See, IFRS 1, 2, 3, 4, it will go on like that until now it is 17. See, each IFRS standards will be related to various fields. For example, IFRS 2 related to share-based payment, and it was issued in 2004, and IFRS 9, it deals with various financial instruments. We all know what does instruments means. There are different types of instruments, and all the rules, regulations regarding financial instruments will be stated in the IFRS 9. So whoever going to deal with the financial instruments has to go through IFRS 9. So all this is done for the easy analyzing and understanding. So IFRS 4 relating with insurance contract. So if you are going to deal with any of the accounting practices regarding insurance contract, you have to refer IFRS 4. If you have any if you want to study in detail regarding leases, you have to go through IFRS 16. So these are the main IFRS standards that is used in the global economy right now. There are 17 IFRS standards. In the various textbooks and in various syllabuses, you might see there are 13 standards or there will be 15 standards like that. But whenever you are going to learn about the standards regarding accounting, try to refer the internet for sources or Google sources, because in the internet it will be updated each day. And in the textbooks and various reference books, they are printed books that will be printed in some part of the past day, and the recent updates will not be shown in the books. So whenever you are studying accounting standards or anything relating to accounting standards, try to go through these international sites or using Google. So IFRS 17 standards, and earlier it was known as International Accounting Standards, otherwise known as IAS. We have discussed that. These standards were the first standards issued by International Accounting Standards Committee, and it was started in 1973 and it was working until 2000. See, various standards. IAS 1, presentation of financial statement. Actually it was the first standard is 1976. issued in 1976. 2007 means it was amended in 2007. That is why it is shown like that. IAS 1 means deals with presentation of financial statement. How financial statements has to be prepared. That means how a trading account, profit and loss account has to be prepared. How a balance sheet is to be prepared. That will be mentioned in IAS 1. IAS 2 deals with inventories. IAS 4 deals with depreciation accounting. There are different methods of depreciation, finding out depreciation of an asset, and it will be expressed in detail in IAS 4. Likewise, there are actually 41 standards under IAS 1. 40 IAS 41 means regarding agriculture. It was issued in 2001. In 2001, IASC means International Accounting Standard Committee was dissolved and changed to International Accounting Standards Board. So after 2001, all the standards were known as International Financial Reporting Standards. Don't get confused with International Accounting Standards and International Financial Reporting Standards. There are different sources for referring this. You can even refer to a Wikipedia to know the existing International Financial Reporting Standards. See, earlier it was IAS 1. It was issued in first one in 1975, disclosure of accounting policy, but it was later amended in 1997 regarding it is known as presentation of financial statement, but right now it is again amended, and in 2007 it is known as presentation of financial statement. So if you go through Google or Wikipedia, you can easily get all the details regarding various standards that is published and issued in the world right now. See, IAS 41, after that IFRS 1, IFRS 17, that is the latest one that is issued or published right now. And if you go through another web page that is regarding, this is the official IFRS site known as www.ifrs.org. Here it will give a detailed description regarding each standard that is issued. See, IFRS standards, IFRS 1 to IFRS 17. If you go through all these standards, you will get a detailed idea about what that standard means, what are the contents under that standard. So, as a part of an activity, you have to go through all these standards and familiarize what are the contents of each standard and what is stated in the each standard. You need not have to study in detail regarding each of the standard, but you have to familiarize each of these, what that standard means, what are the contents of that standard, identify, analyze and familiarize it, because in the examination they might choose out any of these standards. So we were discussing about IFRS 1. So IFRS. So let us continue with that. So one of the components under IFRS is IFRS itself. We have gone through it. There are 17 standards. Go through each 17 standards. You need not have to study in detail the entire contents of the each standard, but you have to familiarize with what is IFRS 4 or what is IFRS 16. What is the contents? Familiarize it, because in the examination surely you will come across a question like that. Next one, IAS. I believe you have understand the relation between IAS and IFRS. I have shown the details of IAS. There are 41 international accounting standards. There will not be any much of the change in the international accounting standard, because there is right now it is known as IFRS. So any updation will happens only in international financial reporting standards. Next one, IFRIC, it is known as interpretations originated by the International Financial Reporting Interpretations Committee. It is another important component under IFRS. There are certain interpretations published by International Financial Reporting International Committee. Interpretations Committee. Actually, IFRIC is the one that is not issuing any standards, but they will publish various interpretations. So let us go through those interpretations. IFRIC interpretations are developed by IFRS Interpretation Committee and are issued after approval by the International Accounting Standards Board. These are the interpretation, not any standards. interpretation regarding how a financial statement has to be analyzed, how it has to be interpreted, like that. So for each type of accounting practices there are certain interpretations, and right now IFRIC 1 till IFRIC 23. Right now there are 23 IFRIC, and remember in various printed materials you might see 18 IFRS RIC interpretations, or there will be 20 IFRIC interpretation. But right now there are 23 IFRIC interpretations, and this means interpreting how various statements has to be interpreted. That is the concept. So go through all these interpretations, trying to familiarize each of these interpretations. That means IFRIC 16 means what is meaning of IFRIC 16. Familiarize it. Not it means forcing you to study in detail each of these cases, because it is very difficult to memorize all these standards and interpretation. But try to familiarize any of these IFRICs and go through all these interpretations published by IFRIC, and no need to by heart the year in which it was implemented or published, but just go through various IFRIC and familiarize some of the important IFRIC. And many of these IFRIC doesn't have any relation with our syllabus or our subject, because it will be relating to higher standards or higher business situations. So some of the IFRIC interpretation may not be familiarized or understood by you people, but anyway try to familiarize each of these points. So that is with regard to IFRIC. So next one, the last one, SIC. SIC means Standing Interpretations Committee. It is almost similar to the previous committee we have discussed. It also issues various interpretation, and let us go through those interpretations. See, SIC interpretations, there are around 33 SIC interpretations, and just like the previous cases in various texts, they may not be updated until 33. It will be shown like 8 SICs or 20 SICs, like that. Right now there are 33 SICs. So these are another set of interpretations that has to be made in various fields of the accounting, and I am not going to repeat again. Go through all these SICs, familiarize each of these cases, and try to understand each interpretations, and try to understand that the components of IFRS includes IFRS, again IFRS, IAS, IFRIC and SIC. Don't worry anything about it. We will discuss in detail each of these 4 components in detail, but the thing is, the standards issued by these 2 parties and interpretations issued by or published by these 2 parties, you have to go through each of these interpretations and standards. Anyway, familiarize the number of standards and interpretations issued by these parties, and go through all these standards and interpretations. I know it is very difficult to by heart all these standards and interpretations, but go through all these points. Try to familiarize some of the important ones. But don't worry, we will discuss in detail what is in the. I believe you need not have to study in detail about IFRS, but we will study in detail IAS, IFRIC and SIC in the coming sessions. So go through all these areas. We will discuss about the further aspects in the coming sessions.